Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and talk about the Google Home, the original one, I guess, and see how it holds up in 2021. Now, last year, I pretty much did the same exact video, and as I saw then as I do now, there are some really huge improvements to pick this thing up, but there's also a lot of reasons maybe you won't really need a Google Home. Now, I think you can pretty much get the same type of experience from a Google Mini as you can from a Google Home, but I think the speakers are better, and those are one of the biggest advantages for picking up a Google Home like this one. Now, these things have gone on sale like crazy for so many times since this thing's been released. I think I purchased mine for around $100 and something, but as I mentioned before, these things have gotten a lot cheaper. It didn't come out today, it came out, a few years ago. And because of that, I'll definitely leave one link down below if you want to pick one up. You can get that from there and help support the channel at the same time. And I really do think with something like a Google Home, you can get a lot of different capability from this type of device. But at the same time, with our phones continuously getting better and better, it just kind of seems like if you just have a phone that has Google Home or has, Siri capabilities, it may just be, good enough for you to go ahead and just use that instead of purchasing a Google Home. But as I mentioned before, there are some reasons to go ahead and pick this thing up. Now, looking around, you can see that it's pretty basic. There's not a lot of craziness going around with it. You obviously have the top speaker part, a little bit of a display on the top. It's not a display. What you're thinking of is just like a light little LED sensors, just like red and green and lights and stuff. But you can also turn up the music, turn down the volume if you want to. You obviously have nothing else but a speaker around the device. Then you have a little bit of a port on the back that allows you to power up this device as well. And I really do think that's primarily it that you really need to know about the outside. It's pretty basic. It feels fairly good. It doesn't feel like a cheap device at all. And I think at the end of the day, it's a very solid feeling device for sure. Now, that pretty much covers it up for the device itself. Now, other than that, the functionality is really cool if you really want to get into it. But as I said before, there isn't really a huge need to pick something like this up unless you're constantly doing a lot of voice commands or you're doing something that, maybe you don't have your phone around or something like that. And I think that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind, because if you have a phone, there isn't really a huge need to have something like this around in your house or something unless you're wanting to have it as something like a speaker of some sort. Because I will tell you, the speaker on this Google Home is actually pretty solid, and I think it's probably one of the better things about it. I think not only is, the device pretty useful in the things you can do, but because of the speaker side of things, this is one of the best things about this device. It's actually a pretty decent speaker. It's not, the best thing ever. It's not perfect, but I do think for something that's supposed to be more so of like a useful kind of, functionality type of device, the speaker inside of it is actually pretty good. So beyond that, I think other things, like the feature set inside of it, specific commands, things like that, you can pretty much do on your phone. If you have an Android or you have an iPhone, if you needed to look up the weather or you needed to play a song or you need to do this or that, it can do that. But I think it's really cool if you just say, hey Google, tell me the weather. Hey Google, who's winning in the Super Bowl? I don't know, like some random things like that. And I will tell you, the searches that I get from Google Home are so much better than what I get from Siri. If I tell Siri, hey Siri, how far is the local Walmart? It's not going to tell you. It's going to pull up the directions and it's going to take a minute. But with Google Home, and it's so funny because my Siri just went off, but with Google Home, it actually does a really good job at everything you really need to do with it. Like if I say, hey Google, tell me whatever, it does it, I think, more accurately and at a faster rate than what Hey Siri does. And as I mentioned before, my Siri just went off again. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. And as I mentioned before, just the speaker quality alone on the Google Home is pretty decent, but I wouldn't buy this thing for being a Bluetooth speaker, because you can buy an equivalent Bluetooth speaker, in my opinion, that is actually probably better than this thing for probably cheaper. But again, it's all in a package. What can you do with a Bluetooth speaker? Really just play songs. With this thing, it is the future. So if in the future there's some cool thing that comes out, that's particularly for voice automated things, well then this thing is going to pretty much be able to have that capability. So as I mentioned before, that is definitely something that I'm really, really happy about with this specific device. And I do think at the end of the day, the Google Home is pretty much worth it. I think it's still worth it as it was last year and the year before and whenever this thing came out. But as I mentioned, if you don't see yourself being around a Google Home for that often and you want it to, say commands to you and you want that functionality, you can pretty much get the same functionality from your phone, probably 95% of it. I think the speaker set is one thing that I'm really, happy about with this specific device. But other than that, I really don't think you need a Google Home, and I think that pretty much covers it up for the most part. As I mentioned, you can get one link down below and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.